Hello, crypto family. This is Crypto Walker, and I wanted to record a video on what I'm seeing, what I'm looking at with Bitcoin specifically, which I really feel like Bitcoin is the market mover. Depending on what it does, really depends on what all the altcoins do as well. So we're going to start on the daily. I'm going to chart this. You have to forgive me. My trading view is probably going to pop up some screens here. Coinigy for me, for some reason, is really lagging today. So I'm using TradingView. So we're just going to start with trend lines, right? Keep it super simple. What trend lines do we see on the daily? Obviously, we see this descending trend line here where it has 3 points of contact. So it's a confirmation of a descending trend line. You need 3 points of contact on any trend line to have a true trend line and have it confirmed. 2 points of contact started this. This third one confirmed it, okay? Another thing I'm looking at is what I would refer to as a descending wedge, which is right here. It's been going on for about a month now, a little bit longer maybe. And we're going to draw the points all the way down to where they would actually meet and complete this descending wedge, should it complete. We don't know. We're right on the cusp of, is it going to break out of this descending wedge? I have a feeling it probably is. And then that wedge will be gone, right? It will be confirmed that the wedge has had a breakout. Most likely it'll break out, come back to retest this descending trend line here, and then bounce up again. But I have a longer term view that I'm really looking at on the weekly. Volume is descending as well, guys. So, you know, with low volume, you can have, that's why we're having such a small little uptick. It's nothing major. We're not doing anything like $1,000 moves in a day right now like we have seen in the past. We're just kind of oscillating or consolidating between the 665 and 7,500 right here, and we could do that for months, right? We could do it for weeks. We could do it for another day and it could be over. But I am looking at this descending volume down here. So the volume's getting lower and lower and lower, but we're seeing a push up. Again, market manipulation is happening all over the place, and it's super obvious with trading bots. And you know, there's definitely a market maker, market mover that wants to keep Bitcoin price down right now. There's a lot of bullish news with you know, Goldman Sachs buying Poloniex, with Monex making an offer to buy CoinCheck. These are large institutions that are getting into the market. I was just reading an article on Venrock, which is like the Rockefeller Foundation's venture capital fund. They're starting to invest in crypto. Well, not starting to. They've partnered with a company, another venture capital fund, crypto fund, that has invested in Coinbase and some others quite heavily in the past. And they're, of course, looking for that next Apple or Facebook, which aren't we all? Okay, so we're going to go to, yeah, we're on the verge of breaking out through that descending wedge now. Now I want to go to the weekly, okay? We're looking also, I'm charting on a logarithmic chart rather than a linear chart, okay? So that changes the scale just a tad bit, but I think it's a much better long-term view. Charting on the logarithmic chart. So you're seeing this really nice, okay, so this is Bitcoin. Isn't that cool to look at the whole chart, right? That is Bitcoin since it's been able to be charted, should I say. Okay, it was started in 2009. We can't go back past really 2013, middle of 2013. So I'm going to start drawing some trend lines here that I see. Just this is one, actually I'm going to use, just so I get it right. Come on, where am I going? We're going to use rays here, just so we can get it spot on. Okay, make it a little thinner. Okay, so I'm looking at that one there. Long term, guys, okay? Look right where we're at right now. Look where we're being held up. There's a lot going on right there. There's a lot of reason that we have not fallen below this, this trend line here. But most people aren't even looking back this far, okay? Another line I see here is this one. Okay. We're going all the way back to the low after the Mt. Gox and, you know, this last bear trend, bear market. And then I see this here, which is a channel that Bitcoin was in for a couple of years. Find it a very solid channel to just be looking at. Again, we're just paying attention to patterns, you know, looking for trend lines, where we might go. If should we break down below here, what would be an area to pay attention to? And obviously for me, it's going to be this block right here, which just happens to be right about where that wedge ends. Again, we don't know where we're going, right? We know where we've been in the past. So we're looking for past supports and resistance and trend lines that we might want to pay attention to, okay? So I'm just going to put this box right here. It's quite a bit of a price difference, around the $4,800 to the $3,300 range, but we might change that a little bit here in a minute. So does that make sense to you guys? I'm looking at let's just look at this right here, the history of Bitcoin, okay? The last bullish massive run up that it had, it went about to 1,200, okay? Mt. Gox happened, that's why you see all these huge wicks, right? And then it wicked back up. I mean, wouldn't you love to have a really low order there that filled? And you have this, then you have this descending trend line here, right? Waiting for it to break out. Is it going to break out? Is it going to break out? Right? It breaks above it and then just kind of slides on along top of it, breaks down below it again, and then finally punches out of it and follows this channel, this rising channel here, rising wedge, I guess you could call it, until it breaks out around the $1,500 mark. And guess what it does? It comes back down to retest that trend line, right? Right here, about the $1,800 area, and then it just goes on its parabolic run, okay? So now it broke out of this channel. It went on the parabolic run. Now it's having its descension here. And in this bear market, what I'm looking at and what I have been looking at for a while are a couple things. This really, really, really long term, okay, you know, it could just be coincidence that we're holding up and that trend line just happens to match, fall right along this. It's been tested already, the top of this trend line, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times on the weekly. Okay, it's probably been tested maybe 10 or 15 times on the daily, but 7 times on the weekly. Okay, so I find that very interesting that we have just stayed right there above it. Also, we're hitting right on the 50-day moving average on the weekly, which is going to hold up some strong support. So you see we bounced off of it, came back down, retested it. Now we're bouncing up again. Should we fall below it, guys? This is the area I'm really paying attention to, okay? For a few reasons, all right? One, we have this channel here where we have the cross, right? They both cross. Another, we have our descending wedge, but another, we have this support area right here. So if you look back to the past, we have this area about 4,900 that became resistance here, broke down, came back up, tested again to resist, broke down, came back up and broke through, okay? It never really was retested, okay? If you see this here, there's no, let me draw what I'm looking at here. There's no retesting of the $5,000 area, right? I mean, it came back here just a little bit, but usually it'll hit this and have a strong test. So if we break down below this line, I'm really looking for a strong bounce at the $4,900 to $5,000 range. Most likely we'll probably have another nice bounce should we break down at the 6,000 to retest this last low, and possibly, you know, maybe create a double bottom that we actually bounce out of and never come back down, or, you know, kind of have the fake out breakout where it bounces up and tests this line again and then bounces down into the $5,000 range. So that's what I'm looking at. I still don't think personally that the bear trend is over. I don't think we're out of the woods yet. Bears still hibernate or still out there. Bulls are, I think what the bulls are doing, the market movers and market makers, are suppressing the price. And they're making money anyway because they're shorting the heck out of Bitcoin, no doubt. But they're suppressing the price right now to keep it low, to continue to accumulate more, and scare the weak hands into selling all the way down, and then having such a horrible experience with crypto that they just throw in the towel and say, I'm never investing in it again, right? So just make sure that you're not one of those, that you have long-term vision, because long-term cryptocurrency and blockchain technology is going to be the future of finance. And we are really fighting on a very epic level. You're witnessing the powers that be, the banksters and the powers that be, realizing that they can't beat us, so they better figure out how to join us. And we're seeing that every single day with larger banks and institutions and hedge funds getting involved with cryptocurrency and blockchain specifically, trying to figure out how they can leverage it and how they can control as much of it as they can. Another thing to pay attention to here is since our huge run up, you know, we saw this volume here, the volume really has gone down, a descending volume. So another thing to pay attention to would be when we have volume spikes that break out above this descending trend line as well. And we could even draw it right here if you want to draw more of the past, you know, let's say since the $14,000 mark. Okay, so that's another thing you want to pay attention to is volume. As volume could remain really low and we could just continue to consolidate, like I said, and never fall into this range. Just have this accumulation phase for a couple weeks or a month before we have this massive breakout, because this thing is building up steam, guys. So when it does pop, I believe it's going to pop big, and we could see another, you know, quick run up to the $15,000 to $18,000 mark before we see any massive resistance, just because it's had so much. It's just been, the pressure is just building like a teapot boils, right? It's just building and building and building. So that's what I'm looking at long term. Right now, there's a lot of support here around the $6,300, $6,400 range. There's a lot of support. You got the 50 MA, you got this really long-term trend line. You've got all this support that it has touched and been support over and over and over again. Now, having said that, the more a trend line is tested, the more likely it is to break up or down. So this is testing as support, support, support. So should it break down, it might break down and we might see a pretty quick, you know, fall, and then it will come back up to retest this as resistance. So don't sell. If you're in a position and it breaks down below, don't panic sell. Wait for it to come back up and retest this trend line as resistance before you sell, okay? So because you could still sell at the $6,500 area if you get caught in a trade and you're stuck. All right, guys, I hope that helps you out. Creating some risk management PDFs and some liquidity stop hunt order block PDFs to help you guys have some things to study, because we talk a lot about it in our weekly live sessions. Everybody have a great weekend. We're also looking at the weekly closing at 5 p.m. Pacific time today. So let's see what happens. But on, you know, right now we've got, yeah, kind of a spinning top, really. I mean, if it was a little bit thinner, equal wick on the bottom, equal wick on the top right now. Let's see what happens by the end of today. I'm hoping personally for it to close, you know, strong around 7,200. And then I really think that that would be a strong run for a few days into next week, but we'll see what happens. Again, it's a daily game with crypto, guys. All right, enjoy your Sunday.